Hi guys, it's Diane here. Welcome back. Today I want to share with you how easily you can crochet this gorgeous open mesh summer top. Any crochet beginners out there, you can definitely give this one a try. If you know the chain stitch, single crochet and double crochet, then you can definitely crochet this top. I absolutely love it. It's fabulous to throw on with a summer top or dress and even swimwear. And as always, I will walk you through step by step so that you can easily follow along. Okay, for this project, we're using a double knit weight yarn or a category 3 light worsted weight yarn in white or any colour that you desire. We're using a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need some stitch markers as you go along. They're always helpful, and a darning needle to sew in your ends, and of course some scissors. So to start, we're going to make our foundation chain. So make a slip knot. And for this pattern, you need to make a chain of 180 plus 1. And for those of you that are making a slightly different size, it's a multiple of 4 plus 1. So what we're doing with our foundation chain, this is the wingspan of one panel. Both back and front panels are going to be exactly the same. So, and we're working along from wrist to wrist, the wingspan. So this foundation chain is your wingspan. So go ahead and make your foundation chain of 180 plus 1, or multiple of 4 plus 1. Pause the video here and I will meet you ready to do row 1. So when you've done 180 chains, don't forget to add 1. I've done a slightly smaller sample today of just 80 chains, just so I could show you the pattern for this crochet top. Okay, so we are ready for row 1. And for row 1, we're going to make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So put your hook straight into that second chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And then quite simply we're going to make a single crochet into every chain all the way along. There we go. So row 1 is very simple. A single crochet into each and every chain until you reach the end of the row. So you can pause the video here while you finish row 1, and I will meet you as we're approaching the end of the row. So here we are at the end of row 1, and I'm just going to put my last single crochet into that last chain, and there is row 1 complete. Okay, so for row 2 we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then turn your work. And we're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain. So we're going to skip 3 chains. Don't count this one as a stitch. So we skip 1, 2, 3 and double crochet into that 4th chain. So 1, 2, 3 and into the 4th, place a double crochet. And then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. And again we're going to skip 3 chains. 1, 2, 3, yarn over and into the 4th, place a double crochet. Then chain 4. Then skip 3. 1, 2, 3, yarn over and into that 4th stitch, place a double crochet. Then chain 4. And we're going to repeat all the way along row 2 exactly like this. So skip 3 stitches. 1, don't count this one, start with the next one. So 1, 2, 3 and into the 4th one, yarn over and put your hook in, make a double crochet. And then chain 4. So it's simply that repeated all the way along the row. 1, 2, 3. In the 4th stitch, place a double crochet. And then chain 4. One, 2, 3. In the 4th, place a double crochet. And you can see this beautiful open mesh stitch starting to emerge. So you can pause the video here and continue along your row 2, 2, 3, 4, exactly repeating just like this. And I will meet you at the end of the row to show you how to finish the row and start row 3. So here we are at the end of row 2 and we skip 3 chains, 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3 and in the very last stitch put in a double crochet. Okay, so there you go. You've got row 2 all done. So for row 3, chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and turn your work. It's a bit fiddly at the start until you've got lots of material to hold on to. Okay, so row 3 is quite simply a repeat of row 2, but it's much easier now, as you can see straight away where you need to place your double crochet, and it's going to be in the top of this double crochet from the row below. So yarn over, hook in to the top of that stitch there, into the top of this stitch here, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then chain 4, then yarn over, come across, find your next double crochet on the row below here, and then yarn over and put your hook into the top of there and make your double crochet. You'll find this row a lot quicker without having to count those 3 stitches in between. And don't forget to chain 4 after every double crochet. There we go. And you can see the next one is here. Put your double crochet in here. So you can see, very simple yet beautiful stitch. I call it an open mesh stitch. I'm not sure if this stitch actually has a specific name, but it's absolutely great for all your summer crochet projects. So continue along row 3. Literally, it's a repeat of row 2. Okay, and then you chain, don't forget your chain 4. Okay, keep going like this, and I'll meet you as we're approaching the end of the row. Okay, so at the end of row 3, as you can see, we've got 1 double crochet left to do. I've done the chain 4, and the double crochet will go into the top of, now if you remember at the beginning of the row we chained 6, so we're going to skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the top of the 5th chain make your double crochet. Okay, so we're now on to row 4, and this is where we start to add those little sections of 4 double crochets together that you can see just spaced out here and there on the crochet top, but there is a little pattern method to this. You can just randomly put them in as and when you feel, you know, you want to put them in. But I'll show you the method that I used. So for row 4, and same for starting every row, we always chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and turn your work, and we're going to start to make our open mesh stitch until we've done 8 of these little squares, as if you know what I mean. And we're then in the 9th one, we're going to make the 4 double crochets together. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do our open mesh stitch as normal. So yarn over, find your top of your next double crochet, make your double crochet in there, and that's going to be sort of square or box 1, as I call it, and we're going to do 8 of these, 8. So chain 4, and then make your double crochet into the top of the double crochet from the row below, and that will be 2. So continue on until you've made 8 of these little squares. Okay, so I've reached 8, so I'll just undo that. So you've got 8 of the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then stop there, because in this chain space here, we're going to place 4 double crochets. So don't chain 4 here, just go straight into a double crochet under the chain 4 space, and make 4 double crochets in that chain 4 space. One, 2, 3, 4, and then we, as normal, we place a double crochet into the top of the double crochet from the row below. Okay, so the space between this section, this set of 4 double crochets, is another 8 squares. So it's every ninth square. So now we'll chain 4, double crochet into the top of the double crochet from the row below. So we're now going to continue with this with the open mesh stitch for another 8 times. Okay, so we've got another 8 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in the 9th, we're going to place 4 double crochet stitches into that chain 4 space. And then into the top of the double crochet from the row below, place a double crochet. And that is your repeat for this row, is every 9th square, so there's 8 in between, place your 4 double crochets into the chain 4 space. Now I've made a smaller sample here, but yours will carry on quite a little bit further. So every 9th square, if that's what you want to call them, place your 4 double crochet stitches and then carry on as normal with your open mesh stitch. Until you reach the end of the row, and again the end of the row in your chain 6, skip 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Place a double crochet into that 5th chain. Okay, so we're ready for your next row. So row 5 and 6, you're going to repeat row 2 and 3, which is quite simply 2 rows of your open mesh stitch with no double crochets in it at all. This is to kind of space them out nicely, so you've got them nicely spaced out. So the next 2 rows, repeat rows 2 and 3, which is 2 rows of your open mesh stitch. And don't forget, always start your row with chaining 6. Turn your work make and repeat. Now repeat rows 2 and 3, and I'll meet you when you've finished that. So here is the end of row 6, which is 2 rows of the open mesh stitch. So we're going to go on to row 7, which is going to be another row of adding in these sections of 4 double crochets. Now they're still going to be every 9th square, apart from the first one. And the first one, instead of being in the 9th one, is going to be in the 6th one. So we're going to go 9, 6 and 3, and that's the pattern. So I'll just show you though. So we start as usual, chain 6, and then turn your work, and then we're going to make 5 squares of the open mesh stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th one we're going to place 4 double crochets just like this. So you yarn over, hook in the top of the double crochet from the row below, and start to make your open mesh stitch. And do that until you have 5 of these squares. Okay, so we've got 5 of these squares, and now in the 6th one we're going to make the 4 double crochets into that chain 4 space. That's 4, and then we put in our stitch here as well. So that is the only difference to the row that we did down here. Is the beginning one is the 6th one, but from now on we still do them 8 squares apart. So from now it'll be every 9th one. So you continue now for another, with the open mesh stitch, making another 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and in the 9th one, in the chain 4 space, you make another 4 double crochet stitches, and continue along this row, apart from this first one, putting just the same as that row below here, every 9th square place 4 double crochet stitches. And I'll meet you at the end of that row and show you what to do next. So at the end of that row, you'll see there was, at the beginning you did 5 squares and they did the double crochets into the 6th one, and then for the rest of the row it was every 9th one. So to continue the pattern, then what we need to do next is 2 more rows of your open mesh stitch, which is repeating row 2 and 3, and then the next sequence in the 4 double crochet will be, instead of the 6th one, we place the 4 double crochets into the 3rd square, but then after that it's every 9th. So the only thing that's different in these rows is the where you place the first lot of 4 double crochets. And in between each of these rows you repeat row 2 and 3. You do 2 rows of your open mesh stitch, and then after you've done the beginning 4 double crochets are in the 3rd one, you go back to putting it into the 9th one. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean. So the next 2 rows, we're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 again, which is the straightforward open mesh stitch. So you chain 6, turn your work and do a whole row of straightforward open mesh stitch, no 4 double crochets together in the next 2 rows. So go ahead and make 2 more rows of this open mesh stitch, and I'll meet you there to show you how to do the next part of the little pattern that's going on in the mesh stitch. Okay, so as you can see, I've made another 2 rows of the open mesh stitch, and we're going to go into the last part of this little pattern of the 4 double crochet stitches. So and the only difference, like I say, is where you place your first lot of 4 double crochet stitches, which is the difference. So for the next row we chain 6, and turn your work, and this time we're going to place our 4 double crochets into this 3rd one. So we've gone from 9 to 6 to 3. So yarn over and make your double crochet stitch, then chain 4, and then make another one, so that you've got two of the little squares here, And in the third one, here is where we're going to place our 4 double crochet stitches. So it's 1, all into that chain 4 space. And as always, 1, 2, 3, 4, don't forget to put your double crochet into the top of this one here. So that is the first one. First 4 double crochet stitches goes into the third little square. But as always, from now on, for the rest of the row, it'll be every 9, into every 9th square. So you continue with your open mesh stitch, for another 8 times. For another 8 times, and then you put your 4 double crochet stitches in the 9th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'll be in this one, and then again, and do another 8 and another 4 double crochet in the 9th one. So it's, once you've done that first one, it's still then every 9th square. And in between these rows here, we always do 2 rows of just the plain open mesh stitch. So you would finish this row, and then you would do 2 rows of open mesh stitch, and then after the third square of 4 double crochets, we go back to doing it into the 9th one, and then every 9th square, and then and the pattern repeats in that way. So it's, the first one is 9, the next one starts at 6, and the 6th one, and the next one starts at the 3rd one. But it's just the one that the first one, and the rest of the row is every 9th. I do hope I've explained that as best I can. Anyway, so continue the pattern in this way until you have done 27 rows. And so here is one of the panels already completed. I can't quite get it all on camera. Now I am going to steam block this very lightly on my ironing board, just hovering the iron just 3 or 4 inches above the work, just with a little bit of steam, just to open this out and relax the yarn fibres. But as you can see, these random little 4 double crochets just adds a little bit of something to the design. So that is one panel, and once you've completed that, and it does work up very quickly, go ahead and make another one exactly the same, just exactly the same. It's just quite simply 2 panels exactly like this, and then once you've done that, I'm going to show you how to join them together. Okay, once you've done both of your panels, I've pulled the camera out as far as I can. Still doesn't quite get the whole length of the panel in there, but lay it flat out on a flat surface, and then lay your second panel onto the top. If I scooch this along, you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use my stitch markers to pin both top corners. So grab your stitch marker and both top corners place in a stitch marker on that side. Now this is the bottom where we started with a row of single crochet, is the bottom, and this is going to be the top where the neckline is. And this corner, add your stitch marker into this corner, just pinning them together. Okay, so they're sitting, there we go, they're sitting together on top of each other. Now I'm just going to show you how we can make our neckline. You need to grab your tape measure and measure all the way across the length. And mine is 51 inches. So half of that, so you want half of that, which is 26. Sorry, no, it's 25.5. And place a stitch marker through both panels, which is your halfway point of your top. Now we're going to create a neckline, and I usually do my necklines around 8 inches wide. You can do it narrower, or if you want more off the shoulder, you can make it wider, but 8 excuse me, 8 inches is a fairly good measurement for a neckline. So take your tape measure and place the number 4 inches onto your stitch marker that you've just placed in. Let's bring my camera in so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, then grab another stitch marker and place it right at the beginning of the tape measure through both panels. And your other stitch marker will sit at 8 inches. That's on the 4. There we go. So I mean, you can take this one in the middle out now if you want. So this is your neckline. You can try it on to make sure you're happy with that size of neckline. But now what we're going to do is we're going to join, and I'm going to use a simple slip stitch from this corner all the way up to the first stitch marker, and again from this side, starting at this right hand corner all the way up to this stitch marker. Okay, I've just tried mine on, and I actually want it's turned out to be a good idea just to try that on. I do want to make my neckline a little bit wider. So as long as I do it in an equal way, I'm going to move each stitch marker out by one square. So that's probably more like 10 inches for the neckline, and this one I'll move over one square across. There we go. But you make your neckline as wide or as narrow as you feel comfortable. Okay, let's get on with sewing these together. So, starting in the top right hand corner, let's take that stitch marker out. Now you want to find your very corner stitch. So 1, 2, I would say it would be the third chain up. So grab your yarn, make a slip knot, and put your hook into the 1, 2, third chain up on the front panel, and 1, 2, 3 into the third chain of the back panel. Just check that's where you want it as a corner. Then grab your slip knot, hook it over your hook, tighten that up, and then pull that through. Okay, and then chain 1, now we're going to just use a slip stitch, and I'm going to use the inside. If you see this stitch here, it's got two parts of the stitch, the front and the back. I'm going to place my hook on the front panel on the inside stitch, find the corresponding stitch on the other panel and put it through on the other inside of the stitch. So I'm not going through both legs of the stitch, and then yarn over, pull through and pull through. So again, we're not going into the stitch of both legs like this. Okay, what we're going to do is find just the inside leg of the stitch on that panel, find your corresponding stitch on your back panel and just put it through one the inside leg of the stitch. Then yarn over and slip stitch through all of those loops on your hook. Okay, so we are going to just continue along all the way just like this. There we go. All the way along until you reach your stitch marker. And I generally tend to finish on, at the top of a double crochet. And then once you've done that side, you will do the same, exactly turn your work over if you're working from right to left, and do the other side. Okay, so we've sewn up the top. Here's your neckline, where your head goes, and we've sewn along the other side as well. So for the bottom, the best way to do this, because everybody's different sizes, is what I tend to do with these sort of tops is using my stitch markers, I will just place a few up to a certain point that I think might be where, because this middle bit obviously is where your body is going. So if you just put in a few stitch markers either side. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap here. So here's my neckline, so I'm going to leave a bit of a gap. And then put more stitch markers the other side. And then literally go and try the whole thing on, and you will be able to feel where it's comfortable for you. You might want it to be narrower than this, so it's tight, if you are depending on your dress size really, as to where you want to sew from the corner up to here. So pin those bottom parts together, go and try it on, and just feel where you want to sew up to. You might only want to sew up a very tiny little ways and just have it quite more loose and flowing. So just do that, and then we are going, once you've established where you want to, these two here, where you want to sew up to, using exactly the same method as you did at the top, using a slip stitch along the bottom, slip stitch up to where these two middle stitch markers for the bottom. Okay, so I've just tried mine on. Now I would say I'm an extra large, and yet I didn't want them too tight against my waist or my hips. So I'm actually making mine, this is 7 inches in on each side. And this one here, you can see on the camera, is 7 inches in as well. And I like the drape. I like the way it drapes, just being sewn in just a little ways. It drapes nicely. It's quite a few inches away from my waist or my hips, and I like the way it drapes. You might want to do yours closer. You can style it however you want, however you like the drape, but I'll be just sewing mine in just a little ways, enough so that it is a sleeve, and I make sure it's the same amount on the other side. And so now once you've established that, it's the best way really to do it is to try it on, find where you want to sew up to, and then again using the slip stitch, join from the corner up to your stitch marker, and the same on the other side. And don't worry about all these seams right now, because we're going to be turning the whole thing inside out. So get these all sewn up with your slip stitch, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so when you've finished sewing the bottom part together, should look a little something like that, and then the same the other side. I have now actually turned the whole thing the right way up. So you've got your neckline and a fairly tidy seam. It's just along the top. You can barely see that, that's fairly good. So you can actually leave that now as is, sew in your ends, and it will be beautiful exactly like this. But what I'm actually doing here now is along the edges of the sleeves and along the edge of all the way around the neckline, what I'm doing is I'm simply placing a single crochet around the edge. So I started, I touched my yarn near the seam at the bottom, and just simply place a single crochet into each stitch all the way along. So I'll just show you, yarn over, and what I'm doing is I'm going through both legs of the stitch and making, no, sorry, forget that, don't yarn over, we're doing a single crochet. So hook straight in, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, and then pull through, and then find your next stitch, and again putting it through both legs of the stitch, make a single crochet, and it just gives it's just giving a nice little edge to the top. And I'm going to do that all the way around the sleeve and finish with a slip stitch into this first single crochet, and then obviously do all the way around this sleeve as well. And I'm also going to do all the way around the neckline. Like I say, that is optional. You know, I feel that for me, that's just sort of finishes off, little details like that, finishes off the garment. So there we go. I've added the single crochet along each sleeve and along the neckline, and it does kind of finish it off just nicely, and also here on the other sleeve. Okay, and that is it. How easy that is to make a beautiful mesh summer top. So I hope you like this video. If you do, please give it a big thumbs up. I appreciate that. Any comments and questions in the comment section below. I'm always happy to help. And for now, happy crocheting, and I will see you next time.